Have you ever felt like your emotions control you more than you control them, as if you're a puppet at the mercy of anger, sadness, or fear? Let me tell you something. It doesn't have to be that way. Emotional maturity isn't a divine gift reserved for a chosen few. It's a skill you can learn and master. Do you dare to take charge of your emotions and stop being a slave to your reactions? In this video, I'll show you 10 essential street steps to achieve this, inspired by the teachings of Stoic philosophy, which isn't just for robed philosophers, but a practical guide for your daily life. So, forget living like a ship adrift and start navigating with purpose. Don't miss the final step. It'll leave you speechless. Are you ready for the challenge? But before we begin, listen to this story. That will help you better understand the wisdom in this material. Once upon a time, in a small seaside village, there was a young woman named Anna. Anna was known for her smile and her passion for music. But one day, her partner, whom she loved deeply, left without a clear explanation. He simply walked away, leaving Anna with a void in her chest that felt larger than the ocean. For days, Anna gazed at the waves from her window, wondering what she'd done wrong, what she could have changed. But one day, while walking along the beach, she found a bottle caught among the rocks. Inside was a message that read, asterisk, the SEA never stops because it loses a wave. It keeps flowing, keeps creating, because IT knows ITS strength lies in ITS movement. Asterisk. Inspired by those words, Anna decided to do the same. She picked up her guitar, which had been forgotten in a corner, and started playing. At first, her songs were filled with sadness, but over time, each note began to shine with a bit more hope. Day by day, Anna focused on creating music, expressing her story and emotions. The beach, once a witness to her pain, now echoed with melodies that touched the heart of anyone who heard them. The villagers, seeing how Anna had turned her sorrow into art, asked how she'd managed to move forward after being abandoned. Anna simply smiled and said, asterisk, in life, we sometimes lose people we thought were essential. But if we find a way to keep creating, to keep moving like the SEA, we'll discover there's always a new wave waiting for us. Asterisk. The moral of this story is that while heartbreak can shatter us inside, the ability to create, to move forward, and to find purpose is what truly heals us. Like the SEA, our strength lies in movement, in never stopping. Before we dive into the first lesson, if you find value in these videos, I encourage you to subscribe and turn on notifications to stay updated with the latest content. Let's begin. 1. Understand your emotions. There's something in life that can make you feel like everything's out of control. Your emotions, that mix of frustration, joy, sadness, and fear that seems to have a life of its own. Let's be honest. Sometimes it's easier to ignore them or let them drag you along like a ship adrift. But what if I told you that understanding your emotions is the first step toward emotional maturity, that instead of reacting like a volcano about to erupt, learning to comprehend what you feel is the secret to a calmer, more balanced life? Do you dare to try? First things first. You're not a robot. Emotions aren't something you can switch on and off at will, and that's okay. What's not okay is ignoring them or not understanding what they're trying to tell you. So, the first step to emotional maturity is identifying what you truly feel. In each moment sounds simple, but how many times have you felt angry without knowing why, or realized the sadness you're feeling runs deeper than just a bad day? This is where Stoic philosophy comes to the rescue. Those philosophers who knew nothing of Instagram said some things still true today. It's not things that affect us, but our reactions to them. In other words, the emotion itself isn't the problem. It's how you respond to it. If you learn to identify and name what you feel, instead of being swept away by the current, you're taking the first step toward emotional maturity. It's not easy, but like everything in life, practice makes perfect. Now that you know what you feel, here comes the hard part. How do you manage it without losing your mind? The trick is to accept those emotions without judging yourself. If you're angry, don't beat yourself up. ACCEPT. It's a human emotion, one everyone experiences. The same goes for sadness or anxiety. The key is not letting those emotions control you like a puppet. Instead of reacting impulsively, take a step back, breathe, and ask yourself questions like, why do I feel this way? What can I learn from this emotion? A useful technique from the Stoics is daily reflection. Each night before bed, take a moment to think about what you felt during the day. Was there a moment you got overwhelmed? Why? What would you have done differently? This practice helps you gain perspective, and over time, emotional maturity comes almost without you noticing. Understanding and managing your emotions isn't something you achieve overnight, nor is it always done perfectly. But if you take that first step, if you allow yourself to feel and understand what's happening inside, you'll start building the emotional maturity that leads to a calmer, more balanced life. Because in the end, maturity doesn't mean stopping feeling. It means learning to handle what you feel without letting it control you. Remember, every emotion is a chance to grow. Next time you feel something pulling you under, pause, breathe, and ask, what can I learn from this? And if you ever doubt, think of the Stoics. Life isn't what happens to you, but how you choose to live it. As they say, emotional maturity isn't about silencing emotions. It's about understanding them so they don't rule you. 2. Learn to be your own best friend. Have you ever stopped to think about how you talk to yourself? I'm not talking about the philosophical chats you have in the shower or over coffee, though those are great too. I mean those moments when, instead of being your own ally, you become your worst enemy. Sometimes it feels like we're experts at giving ourselves the harshest criticism, as if self-compassion were a luxury only a privileged few can afford. Well, let me tell you something. Being kind to yourself isn't just possible, it's essential. Constant self-criticism drags us down, stalls us. Instead of helping us improve, it paralyzes us. It's like trying to run through water, always feeling something's holding you back. When emotional challenges hit, instead of facing them with maturity, we fall into a pit of self-loathing, guilt, and frustration. We blame ourselves for not being perfect, for not handling our emotions flawlessly. But I imagine a child learning to ride a bike. Would you punish them every time they fall? Of course not. You'd encourage them. Yet, with ourselves, we do the opposite, whipping ourselves with guilt and regret, forgetting that emotional maturity starts with being our own source of support. Self-compassion is like life insurance for your emotional well-being. It's knowing that even when you fall, you'll get up without ridiculing or belittling yourself. As the Stoics taught, we can't control what happens around us, but we can control how we respond, accepting our emotions instead of judging or rejecting them is the first step. It doesn't matter if you feel anger, sadness, or frustration. Those emotions are like the weather. They come and go. If you label them as bad, you only make them linger longer. Instead, ask, what can I learn from this emotion? This reflection opens the door to genuine emotional maturity. It's crucial to learn to be your own ally. Think for a moment. What would you say to a friend going through a tough time? You'd likely offer words of comfort and encouragement. Well, you should do the same for yourself. Speaking to yourself kindly doesn't make you weak. It makes you wise. Contrary to what we think, being your own lifelong companion doesn't just make you stronger. It lets you be more compassionate toward others. Perfection is a myth, and knowing that sets you free. Accepting that you'll make mistakes and fall is part of growth. True power lies in learning from them. When a tree bends in the wind, it doesn't break. It grows stronger. Similarly, you can find strength in your vulnerabilities. It's important to let yourself fail without it defining you. Self-care, of course, plays a key role. It's not just about meditating or doing yoga, though those are wonderful practices. Self-care also means knowing when to rest, when to stop, when to enjoy what makes you feel good. Emotional maturity requires recognizing your limits and learning to say, I can't take any more, without guilt. That's part of being a good friend to yourself. In the end, self-compassion isn't weakness, it's wisdom. When you treat yourself with kindness, you allow yourself to learn, grow, and heal from the emotional wounds we all carry. Emotional maturity is built step by step, and one of those steps is learning to be your own best friend. As Epictetus said, learning to accept and care for yourself is the first step to giving your best to others. 3. Active listening. Have you ever felt like you're talking to a wall, or worse, waiting for your turn to speak while the other person drones on about something you don't care about? The truth is, we're so used to talking, sharing our opinions, and expressing our thoughts that we forget a key skill: listening. And I don't mean the kind of listening where you're just waiting for them to finish so you can drop your pearl of wisdom. I'm talking about active listening, the kind that can transform relationships, adding depth, understanding, and emotional maturity. True active listening has nothing to do with just hearing what the other person says. If it were that easy, we'd all be experts. The K is engaging fully, letting go of thinking about what you'll say next, and instead giving your complete attention to what the other person is expressing. Have you tried it? Let me tell you, it's not as simple as it sounds. To truly listen, you have to be present, body and soul, and set aside those quick judgments that pop into your head. Imagine you're a mirror, reflecting what the other person feels, without embellishments or criticism, but not a mirror that responds with asterisk Oh yeah, I've got similar problems. Asterisk. Number this mirror just reflects. Nothing more. Sounds tug. Doesn't it? It is. Because as humans, we have this ODD need to opine, give advice even when you're asked, and fix everything we hear. But here's the key. Emotional maturity grows when we learn to listen without trying to change anything. Just listen. Stoic philosophy teaches us we can't control what others say or do, but we can control how we react. In fact, the Stoic response to a tough conversation is to practice calm and reflection before replying, instead of going into defense mode or thinking, asterisk, I've got something to say too, asterisk. We can choose quiet reflection and understanding. When we talk about active listening, we're emphasizing the importance of eliminating distractions. If you're checking your phone, you're not listening actively. It takes conscious effort to focus entirely on the person in front of you. If you're in a noisy environment, why not find a quieter spot to talk? Physical presence matters too. It's not just about hearing words, but making the other person feel you care. A great way to deepen the conversation is by asking open-ended questions instead of just nodding. Questions like, asterisk, how do you feel about this? Asterisk, or asterisk, what's worrying you? Asterisk, not only enrich the conversation, but show genuine interest in the other's well-being, making them feel heard and understood. It's also important to reflect what you're hearing, something as simple as restating what you heard, to ensure you got it right, not summarizing or giving advice, just reflecting, asterisk, so, if I understand correctly, you're re-saying. This kind of response builds a space of trust, where the person feels safe to keep sharing. Finally, active listening requires patience. There's no rush. All great moments of understanding between people take time. Don't hurry to offer a solution. The real magic happens when you take time to listen and understand before speaking. At the end of the day, the deepest relationships aren't built on how much we know or how many answers we have. They're built on how well we make others feel, how we listen without judgment or interruption. This kind of emotional maturity can be the bridge to more authentic, lasting connections. So, next time you're in a conversation, remember, it's not about talking a lot, but listening better. Because in the END, we all need someone who listens with attention, without haste or interruption. As Carl Jung said, asterisk, listening isn't just hearing, it's understanding without rushing, reflecting without judging. Asterisk 4. Don't blame others for your happiness. Have you ever stopped to think how much power you give others over your emotions? It often feels like everything we feel depends on what people do, say, or fail to do. If someone doesn't greet us, criticizes us, or doesn't meet our expectations, there we are, feeling sad, frustrated, or even angry. But what if I told you, it's not them controlling how you feel? The truth is, your emotions are yours, even if we don't like admitting it. Stoic philosophy, that ancient school of thought seeking serenity, makes one thing clear. We're responsible for what we feel. Yes, you. The fact that someone didn't treat you as expected or said something upsetting doesn't have to disrupt your inner peace. The Stoics remind us that control over our reactions lies in our hands, not others. What often happens is, we hand others the reins of our well-being. They made me feel bad. Their behavior made me angry. They didn't give me what I needed. It's easy to blame others, but in doing so, you become a victim of a situation. Only you have the power to change. No one can make you feel something without your permission. By giving others that control, you're locking yourself in an emotional prison that's hard to escape. It's like being the driver of a car and letting someone outside decide where you go. Does that make sense? Of course not. Yet, that's what you do when you let others control how you feel. Now, I know you're thinking this is easier said than done, and you're right. Taking responsibility for your emotions isn't instant, but like everything, it's learned with practice. So, if you want to break free from that emotional prison and take charge of your happiness, here are some things you can start doing. First, recognize you're the only one responsible for how you feel. No matter what others do or say, you have the control. Acknowledging this is the first step to shifting your perspective. Next, learn to pause before reacting. Instead of letting a fleeting emotion dictate your mood for the day, take a second to think, do I really want to react this way? Is this worth all my energy? That brief moment can be the difference. It's also crucial to let go of what you can't control. If something's out of your hands, why waste time and energy lamenting it? Learn to release emotions that don't help you move forward. Changing your perspective on situations is another powerful key. If someone hurts you, instead of seeing it as a personal attack, try to understand it reflects more about them than you. Don't take their words or actions as a judgment of your worth. Finally, remember emotional maturity is a skill honed through daily practice. Don't expect instant changes, but with consistent effort, you'll gradually take more control over your emotions and learn to live them more balancedly. Taking responsibility for your emotions not only brings peace, but grants freedom. You no longer need to wait for others to change to feel good. The power is in you. You just need to start claiming it. Emotional maturity doesn't mean stopping feeling. It means understanding you decide how to live those emotions. Don't let others hold the reins of your happiness. Emotional responsibility is the first step to a fuller life. As Marcus Aurelius said, he who frees himself from others' control becomes the master of his peace. 5. Think before you act. Ever done something you regret? The moment you do it, that sinking feeling of saying something hurtful, making an impulsive decision, or reacting without thinking. The classic I'll regret this later, but it's too late move. We've all been there, even those who think they're the picture of calm and control. The key is learning to think before acting. And that, my friend, is what we call emotional maturity. Let's be honest. We're not always up to the task. Sometimes, our impulses are like a dog chasing a bone. Bam! We react without thinking. Stoic philosophy teaches us we can master our emotions, and thus our reactions. It might sound like something out of a movie, but the teachings of Stoics like Seneca or Epictetus invite us to take a step back before diving into action. Imagine you're in a work meeting and someone says something that infuriates you. Your impulse is to raise your hand and blurt out the first thing that comes to mind, as if your mouth has a life of its own. The moment you say it, there's no going back. Now, imagine Instead of acting without thinking, you take a couple of seconds to breathe, to reflect on what you really want to say. The result? Likely a calmer conversation and a much more mature image of yourself. It's not about eliminating impulses. That'd be as possible as stopping the wind with your hands. Impulses are part of us. What matters is what we do with them. This is where emotional maturity comes in. Instead of letting your emotions control you, the idea is to face them, observing them from a distance. A key step is practicing the pause. At the right moment, when you feel an impulse about to take over, pause, breathe. That 1 second can be the difference between an impulsive reaction and a thoughtful response. Another vital strategy is self-observation. Take a moment to identify the emotions rising within you. Are you upset, frustrated, anxious? Recognizing what you feel lets you take control, instead of letting an emotional whirlwind sweep you away. Plus, when you know what affects you, you can find more effective ways to handle it, like talking to someone you trust, or writing down your feelings. And don't forget the importance of reflecting afterward. Ever reacted instantly to something you didn't like, only to realize later you could have handled it better? Reflecting on past reactions gives you tools to improve in the future. Emotional maturity isn't achieved overnight, but every time you pause before acting, you're one step closer to mastering your impulses. Remember, it's not about suppressing what you feel, but knowing when and how to respond. As the Stoics would say, our true freedom lies in our ability to choose how we react to what happens. In the end, what matters isn't what happens to you, but how you choose to handle it. So, next time an impulse calls, take a deep breath and remember, the time you take to think before acting might be the best gift you give yourself. Burn this into your mind, my friend. Emotions don't define you. They only show what you can control. 6. Connect with others. Ever had a conversation where you feel like you're talking to a wall? Or worse, stuck in a situation where you don't know where to start? With someone? We've all been there. And the truth is, connecting with others can be tricky. But what if I told you, you have a hidden superpower that can improve your social interactions and help you understand others better? That superpower is empathy. And it's not just for comic book heroes. Empathy isn't just a nice word the Stoics occasionally tossed around. It's the ability to put yourself in someone else's shoes, to feel what they feel, to see things from their perspective. And we're not talking about being a pushover who agrees with everything others say. Empathy is far more powerful. It's a tool to boost your emotional maturity, a necessary process for relating better to the world around you. Before you think empathy is only for bleeding hearts, let me tell you, it's not about being a good Samaritan all the time. It's about understanding, listening, and learning to manage your emotions in relation to others. It's not easy, of course. If it were, we'd all be hugging on the street, and the world would be a much calmer place. But thankfully, it's not as complicated as it seems. First, empathy starts with something we often forget: listening. Not listening with the intent to reply, but to understand. It's so easy to fall into the trap of thinking we already know what the other person will say or need. But what if I told you that by truly listening, without interrupting or judging, you could discover things you never imagined? For example, if a friend tells you they're having a tough time at work, instead of saying, asterisk. I told you, so asterisk or asterisk. It'll pass, asterisk. Try thinking about how they feel. It's not about giving advice at all costs, but understanding the root of the issue that, though it sounds simple, changes everything. Another key step is self-observation. Yes, you need to know yourself, to understand how you react to others' emotions. This, though you might not like it, requires emotional maturity. Instead of diving in with judgments, ask yourself, why does what this person's saying bother me so much? What's it triggering in me? This helps you distinguish what's truly about the other person and what's just your own emotions. Empathy isn't just a skill, it's a constant practice, a way of life. It demands effort, patience, and self-awareness. It's not about being perfect all the time, but being aware that every interaction is a chance to understand others better. Because in the END, when you practice empathy, you don't just connect better with others, you understand yourself better too. Stoic philosophy teaches us to manage emotions rationally and maturely. Applying these principles daily, especially in interactions, builds the emotional maturity essential for coexistence. So, next time you're in a tough situation, remember, your superpower is empathy. Use it to understand, to listen, to connect. As Gandhi said, asterisk, empathy is the bridge that connects souls, not just words. Asterisk 7. Learn to handle disappointments. It's easy to get caught up in the idea that everything in life should go as planned. If I do this, that'll happen. If I try hard, success is guaranteed. But here is a reality check. Life doesn't work that way. Frustration, that UN welcome travel companion, shows up unannounced, like an uninvited guest, plopping down in front of you when you least expect it. And then you face the crucial question. How do you react? Do you let it take over and ruin your day? Or do you take the reins and move forward? The first step is understanding that frustration isn't the end of the world, nor the end of your efforts. In fact, it's often the best teacher. Yes, you read that right. Frustration teaches you something success never could. Because ultimately, what matters isn't how many times you fall, but how you get up. And more importantly, what you learn while dusting yourself off. Throughout life, we all face disappointments. It's inevitable. But what makes the difference isn't the stumble itself, but how we respond to it. This is where emotional maturity comes in. The Stoics, with their no-nonsense philosophy, teach us the key is accepting what we can't change. We can't control traffic, what people say, or the small or big disappointments that pierce us like arrows. The only thing we control is our reaction. So, how do you practice emotional maturity here? First, by recognizing frustration isn't the enemy, but an opportunity. Every time something doesn't go as expected, it's a chance to practice acceptance and patience. Instead of yelling into the void or letting unchecked emotions lead you to a dead end, pause, breathe, and reflect. What can I learn from this? How can I adapt and move forward without getting stuck in failure? A good trick is to see it like a video game. Each level you pass brings new challenges, right? But if you stopped every time your character fell, you'd never reach the next level. It's the same in life. If you stay stuck in the discomfort of frustration, you're denying yourself the chance to advance. Accepting frustration doesn't mean giving up or settling for less. It means recognizing every setback is a growth opportunity. By integrating this mindset into your daily life, you become more resilient, better able to face whatever comes without losing composure. So, next time frustration knocks, remember, it's not the end of the world or your dreams. It's just another step toward personal growth. Emotional maturity and Stoic philosophy can guide you like a lighthouse. If you learn to navigate calmly, without desperation, you'll handle any disappointment with grace. As Viktor Frankl said, he who knows how to accept frustration knows how to embrace the future. 8. Learn to stay calm. Life isn't exactly a walk in the park. ADD, daily problems, others' expectations, and your own worries, and it becomes a whirlwind of stress. So, you wonder, how am I supposed to handle all this without losing my mind? The answer, though it sounds cliché, is managing stress with wisdom. If you're someone who gets swept away by the current without thinking about consequences, here are some keys to start practicing what the Stoics championed: emotional maturity, learning to manage emotions so they don't drag you like a tsunami. You don't need to be a philosopher to see that stress often clouds our judgment. But what if, instead of letting anger, frustration, or fear take over, you took a moment to simply acknowledge those emotions? This isn't just do it because a wise person said so, It's about mental health. When you recognize what you feel, you stop being a passive bystander and start taking control. A simple but powerful tool is the breathe and feel technique. I know you've heard it 1,000 times, but when was the last time you actually did it? By pausing, breathing deeply, and acknowledging what you feel, you give your mind space to avoid drowning in negative thoughts. It's like cutting off the fuel to the fire of stress. The Stoics understood this well. They said we should focus only on what we can control and let go of what's not in our hands. The key is shifting your focus. For example, if something doesn't go as planned, does ruminating help? Probably not. Learning to let go, to a CCEPT, what you can't change, is a fundamental step toward emotional maturity. A simple trick is to write down what's worrying you. Make a list of your thoughts, then analyze which are beyond your control. Sometimes, just externalizing worries makes them smaller, less threatening. Stress often comes from seeing things through a narrow lens, like looking at everything through a tiny crack. What feels like a huge problem now might just be a small pebble in the path. Practicing emotional maturity means changing perspective, as if stepping back to see the whole picture. The ISSUE consuming you today will be just a story tomorrow. This is where the Stoic idea shines. It's not what happens, but how you face it. Instead of living stress as an unbearable burden, see it as a chance to practice your emotional tools. A simple example: stuck in traffic. You can curse and feel powerless, or use the time to listen to calming music, or reflect on what you can improve in your day. Staying calm isn't a gift. It's a skill you train. Like any muscle, the key is recognizing your emotions, letting go of what you can't control, and shifting your perspective. Don't expect stress to vanish. It won't, but you can learn to manage it, to not let it control you. So, why not start today, working on your emotional maturity? Calm isn't just for sages. It's for anyone who decides to take charge. of their well-being. As she said, asterisk, serenity doesn't come from the environment, but from how you choose to face what life puts in your path. Asterisk 9. Protect your inner peace. There's an uncomfortable truth. Few want to CCPT. You're not responsible for others' happiness. Sometimes life asks you to hit the brakes, to say no, to not carry the weight of others' expectations. But setting boundaries is an art. And like all art, it takes practice, courage, and a bit of patience. Because if you think emotional maturity means saying yes to everything, I'm sorry to say you're very wrong. Let's talk about how to set boundaries without being dragged down by guilt. And above all, how this can be the key to protecting your inner peace. Why is it so hard to say no? The simple answer is fear. Fear of disappointing, being judged, or someone pulling away. Because you said no for the first time. And yes, sometimes that fear is real. But that doesn't mean you should let it control your life. The Stoics, who seemed to have a recipe for everything, understood this well. They said, true freedom begins when we let go of the constant need to please others. It's not about being selfish, but about being responsible for yourself, your emotions, and what lets you live in peace. Imagine you're at a party where everyone's asking for a favor, but you're exhausted and just want to crash on your couch with your favorite show. If you say yes to please everyone, you'll only drain your energy and likely your good mood. In the end, you'll feel resentful for not protecting your personal space. Here's the magic of boundaries. Saying no isn't rejecting others. It's an ACT of respect for yourself. Setting healthy boundaries is an emotional muscle you need to train. It's not something you master overnight, but with practice, it becomes more natural. First, you must recognize your right to say no. This is the essential first step. If you can't see that you have the right to say no, you'll be trapped in constant negotiation with others. Saying no doesn't make you a bad person. It makes you someone with clear priorities. Next, define your boundaries. What makes you uncomfortable? What drains you emotionally? Write these down and decide what you'll do when someone crosses them. Clarity is key here. If you know it bothers you to be constantly interrupted, set boundaries about when and how you're willing to listen. Explaining your boundaries clearly is another crucial step. There's no room for beating around the bush. Saying *number, I can't, * is enough. You don't need to justify or over-explain. Remember, what's at stake is your emotional well-being, not others. Be prepared for others' reactions too. Some will get upset, some won't understand, and others will accept it. No one said it'd be easy. But what's at stake is bigger. You're in a peace. Consistency is the next vital step. Once you set a boundary, don't backtrack. Consistency helps you maintain your energy and protect your space. Nothing's more draining than waffling. In the end, emotional maturity isn't about being accommodating. Are always available. It's about being honest with yourself, knowing when and how to set boundaries. And understanding this is an act of self-love. You don't have to live for others or sacrifice your peace to make them happy. Stoic philosophy reminds us our well-being depends on what we can control. And here, you control your boundaries. Setting boundaries doesn't make you less kind. It makes you wiser. And most importantly, it protects the one thing you truly have: your inner peace. Burn this into your mind, my friend. True power lies not in what we give others, but in what we're able to keep for ourselves when needed. 10. Learn to forgive. Ever felt like holding a grudge? Is like carrying a backpack full of stones, not the kind you use for work, but a heavy one that feels like it's crushing your soul. If you think forgiveness is only for the weak, or those who don't know how to stand up for themselves, it's time to rethink that idea. Forgiveness isn't just for the saintly, it's for you too, and if you think about it, it can be one of the most powerful ways to free your mind and heart. Because what's the point of clinging to the past if it's hurting you? Forgiveness is a concept many misunderstand. Some think it means forgetting what happened, or even justifying the one who hurt you. But in reality, forgiveness doesn't mean wiping the slate clean without a second thought. It's a way of saying, asterisk, this won't rule me anymore. Asterisk, Stoic philosophy teaches that our inner peace doesn't depend on what others do, but on how we choose to respond. And yes, that includes forgiving. Forgiving, whether others or yourself, isn't a sign of weakness, but the opposite, a mark of emotional maturity. It's like refusing to carry a heavy backpack just because others keep adding stones. In the end, the only one suffering is you. So, why not drop that weight and walk light? The first step to forgiving, even yourself, is recognizing everyone makes mistakes. No one comes to life with a perfect manual. If you've failed, that doesn't make you a bad person, just someone learning. Stop beating your heart with past mistakes. When you understand this, you stop feeling needless guilt and can begin freeing yourself from resentment's weight. Sometimes, others' actions have more to do with their own struggles and pain than with you. What happened might not have been as personal as you thought. Seeing things from a broader perspective helps you let go of resentment. You no longer see it as something done to you, but as something they experienced and projected. It's a shift in focus that turns pain into an experience that only indirectly affects you. Accepting you can't change what happened is another key to forgiveness. The past can't be altered, but you can decide what to do with the grudges and emotions tied to it. You don't need to keep clinging to pain. When you can choose to release it, resentment won't give you what you need. And only by letting it go can you move forward. Forgiveness, in the end, isn't about the other person deserving it. It's about you deserving to live without that burden. By forgiving yourself for holding on to pain so long, you find the peace you sought. Letting go opens the door to a future free of emotional baggage. Forgiveness isn't for the other person, it's for you to heal. It's a gift you give yourself. Forgiving doesn't mean forgetting or justifying. It's a bold act of self-liberation. If you don't learn to forgive, you'll stay trapped in a cycle of pain you impose on yourself. There's nothing more freeing than releasing resentment. So, why keep carrying something that isn't yours? As Gandhi once said, asterisk, forgiveness doesn't change the past, but it does free the future. Asterisk. If you've made it this far, write in the comments. Asterisk. It all starts with your inner peace. Asterisk. I invite you to subscribe, turn on notifications, and comment so platforms recognize that these videos are valuable for people like you. This motivates us to keep creating similar content. In the future, I suggest checking out the last 2 videos we recommended. Thank you sincerely for your time and support. See you in our next adventure.